The sun was beginning to set over the bustling city, casting long shadows against the towering buildings that surrounded it. In the alley behind a popular restaurant, 12-year-old Lily rummaged through a dumpster, her small frame barely visible amidst the heaps of garbage. The smell was overwhelming, an acrid mix of spoiled food and refuse. But Lily was no stranger to such scents. Her life on the streets had taught her to endure far worse. As she lifted a discarded pizza box, her stomach growled in protest. She hadn't eaten properly in days, and the fleeting hope of finding something edible drove her to continue her search. With a grimace, she dug deeper, her hands coming into contact with something unexpectedly solid. Curiosity piqued, she pulled out a worn leather briefcase, its surface scuffed and faded, but still intact. "What's this doing here?" she murmured to herself, brushing off the grime. Lily's heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. It was rare to find anything of value amidst the trash, and a briefcase could hold just about anything: money, important papers, or even a chance to change her fate. She glanced around, ensuring no one was watching, and unzipped the case. Inside, she found a stack of documents, neatly organized, along with a faded photograph of a man who looked to be in his 40s. His dark hair was slicked back, and he wore a tailored suit with an expression that seemed both serious and kind. "Andrew Sinclair?" Lily read aloud, squinting at the name printed in bold letters at the top of one of the documents. She had heard whispers about the reclusive millionaire known for his philanthropy. His name often floated through the streets as a beacon of hope for those in need, but she had never thought she would come across something that belonged to him. Her mind raced with possibilities. Maybe if I return this to him, he'll help me. Just one night in a warm bed. That's all I need. She tucked the photograph into her pocket, carefully folding the documents and placing them back into the briefcase. The sun dipped lower, and the cool evening air began to settle around her, reminding her of the harsh reality that awaited her outside the temporary refuge of the dumpster. She had to find Andrew Sinclair, and soon. With determination in her heart, Lily made her way out of the alley and onto the bustling street, the sounds of the city wrapping around her. A cacophony of honking cars, distant music, and the chatter of people going about their lives. As she walked, she felt a twinge of envy at the sight of families dining together and friends laughing. She missed the warmth of companionship, the simple joy of sharing a meal with loved ones. A flashback hit her, uninvited, transporting her to a time when laughter filled her home. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, singing softly as she prepared dinner, while her father set the table with care. She remembered her little brother Jake, running around, his giggles infectious. They were happy then, before everything fell apart, before the arguments, the screaming, and the day her parents decided to go their separate ways. "Lily, come help me with this," her mother had called, her smile radiant as she flourished a wooden spoon. But that happiness was gone now, swallowed by the harsh reality of her life on the streets. Lily's heart ached as she recalled the last time she had seen her family. The memory was like a phantom, haunting her every moment. With a sigh, she shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts that threatened to pull her down. "Focus, Lily," she whispered to herself, forcing her feet to move forward. "You need to find Andrew Sinclair." As she approached a park where kids often gathered, she spotted a group of local children playing a game of tag. They laughed and shouted, their carefree joy contrasting sharply with her own struggles. She hesitated at the edge of the park, feeling the familiar sting of loneliness creeping in. But she steeled herself and approached the group, clutching the briefcase tightly. "Hey, do you guys know where I can find Andrew Sinclair?" she called out, trying to project confidence. The laughter stopped, and the kids turned to look at her, their expressions shifting from curiosity to mockery. One of the older boys, with a smirk plastered across his face, stepped forward. "What do you want with him, homeless girl? You think he's going to help you?" Lily's heart sank. "No, I found something that belongs to him," she stammered, holding up the briefcase for them to see. The boy's eyes lit up with mischief. "A briefcase? What's in it? Money?" He reached out, attempting to snatch it from her grasp. "Hey, no, wait!" Lily exclaimed, stepping back instinctively. But it was too late. The boy lunged, and with surprising speed, He managed to wrest the briefcase from her hands. "Look at this! You're just a filthy little rat, aren't you?" he taunted, opening the briefcase as his friends gathered around laughing. "Give it back!" Lily shouted, desperation fueling her voice as she lunged forward, but they were too quick. The group began to poke fun at her, their words cutting deeper than any physical blow. "Maybe you should go back to your cardboard box," one girl chimed in, her laughter ringing like cruel bells in the chilly air. Lily felt her cheeks flush with humiliation as she stood there, watching the briefcase she had hoped would change her life being tossed around like a toy. "Please, it's not yours. I need it," she pleaded, her eyes brimming with frustration and sadness. But the boy just laughed again, tossing the briefcase to his friends as they huddled together, mocking her further. The laughter echoed in her ears, a bitter reminder of how alone she truly was. "Forget it," she muttered, turning on her heel and walking away, her heart heavy with disappointment. She had hoped for help, for connection, but instead she was met with nothing but scorn. As she walked away from the park, determination ignited within her. She couldn't let this setback stop her. "I'll find Andrew Sinclair myself," she vowed quietly, her heart pounding with renewed purpose. "I just need to figure out where he is." The streets were alive with the sounds of the city, and as Lily made her way through the alleys and side streets, she felt a growing sense of resolve. She had survived thus far, and she wasn't going to give up now. Andrew Sinclair might be her last hope, the one chance she had to escape the cold, the hunger, and the loneliness that had consumed her life for far too long. With the fading sunlight guiding her, Lily set her sights on the horizon, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead in her quest to find Andrew Sinclair and the warmth of a home, even if just for one night. Lily wandered the streets, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had overheard snippets of conversation about Andrew Sinclair. His name floated through the air like a whispering ghost. As she walked, she could feel the chill of the evening creeping into her bones, but the thought of finding him kept her warm. The news of his recent disappearance had ignited a spark of determination within her. If she could just piece together the fragments of his life, perhaps she could finally find a way to reach out to him. She made her way to the nearest coffee shop, a small establishment with warm lights glowing through the large windows. It was a favorite haunt for locals, and she hoped someone there might have information about the elusive millionaire. Stepping inside, she was immediately met with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and the murmur of friendly chatter. The contrast to her own life was stark, and for a moment, she felt out of place. "Hey kid, you can't just hang around here," the barista called out, a frown etched on her face. "We don't allow loitering." Lily's heart sank, but she didn't let it show. "I'm just looking for someone," she replied, her voice steady despite the nerves swirling inside her. The barista raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on her features. "And who would that be?" "Andrew Sinclair," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper, hoping her desperation wouldn't come through. She had no idea how to explain her connection to him or her purpose for searching. The barista paused, her expression softening slightly. "You mean the millionaire who disappeared after that charity gala? What do you want with him?" "I found something of his," Lily replied, clutching the briefcase at her side. "I thought he might want it back." "Good luck with that," the barista said, shaking her head. "He's been off the grid since that night. No one knows where he is." "But he has to be around here somewhere," Lily insisted, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "He can't just vanish." The barista's gaze turned sympathetic and she sighed. "Look, kid, I don't know what to tell you. If I were you, I'd check around the charity event. Maybe someone there knows something." "Thanks," Lily said, her spirits lifting slightly as she turned to leave. She knew she had to follow this lead, no matter how slim the chance of success might be. The gala was being held at a grand hotel downtown, its opulent facade a stark contrast to Lily's worn clothes. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. As she approached, she could hear the faint strains of music and laughter drifting through the air. The sight of the elegantly dressed guests made her heart race with anxiety. She was out of place here, but the thought of Andrew drove her forward. Determined to blend in, Lily glanced around for a way to sneak inside. She spotted a side entrance, partially obscured by a large potted plant. With a quick glance over her shoulder, she slipped through the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, filled with the clinking of glasses and the murmur of conversations. She paused, taking in the luxurious surroundings. Chandeliers sparkled above, and laughter echoed around the room. Lily felt like a ghost in this world, invisible yet yearning to be seen. She moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows as she scanned the crowd for any sign of Andrew. Her heart ached at the sight of the glittering gowns and tailored suits, a world so far removed from her own. She felt a pang of envy but pushed it aside. She wasn't here to dwell on her circumstances. She was on a mission. As she navigated through the crowd, she caught glimpses of Andrew in the distance. He stood by a grand staircase, his presence commanding yet somber. Even from afar, she could see the weight he carried, the sadness etched into his features. He was surrounded by laughter and conversation, yet he seemed detached, as if he were on the outside looking in. "Who is that?" a woman nearby asked, her voice laced with curiosity. "He looks so lost among all these people." "He's Andrew Sinclair," a man replied, his tone dripping with disdain. "He used to be the life of the party, but ever since that accident, well, it's like he's a different person." Lily's heart raced at the mention of the accident. She knew there was more to his story, a depth she could sense even from a distance. She felt an unexplainable connection to him, an understanding that went beyond words. Gathering her courage, she decided it was time to approach him. She took a deep breath, clutching the briefcase tightly to her chest. As she stepped forward, her mind raced with what she would say. Would he even listen to a girl like her? As the gala began to wind down, Lily noticed guests beginning to filter out, laughter echoing in the hallways. She spotted Andrew moving toward the exit, his expression a mix of weariness and resolve. This was her chance. "Mr. Sinclair!" she called out, her voice trembling slightly but clear. The sound of her voice caught his attention, and he turned to look at her, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "What do you want?" he asked, his tone guarded, yet there was a hint of interest. Lily took a step closer, her heart racing. "I found something of yours," she said, holding out the briefcase. "It's important." Andrew's brow furrowed as he regarded her, skepticism evident in his gaze. "And how would you know it's mine?" "I saw your name on the documents in Sid," she replied, a sense of urgency creeping into her voice. "I just want to return it to you." He hesitated, the briefest of moments stretching between them. "You shouldn't be here," he said, glancing around, as if the very act of speaking to her might draw unwanted attention. Lily's resolve hardened. "I know you're hurting," she said softly, her voice steady. "I can feel it. You don't have to pretend with me. Just let me help." For a moment, Andrew's expression softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his guarded exterior. "Help?" he echoed, a bitter edge creeping into his tone. What could a homeless girl possibly know about help? Lily's heart sank at his words, but she refused to back down. "I may not have a home, but I know what it's like to feel lost and alone. I just thought, maybe for one night, you could let me stay with you, just to escape this world for a little while." Andrew studied her, the weight of her request hanging heavy in the air. "A warm place to sleep? That's all you want in exchange for my documents?" he asked, his voice laced with doubt. "Yes," she replied, her sincerity shining through. "Just one night. I promise I won't be a burden." He looked away, his expression conflicted. The gala had been filled with superficiality, and here stood a girl who represented something real, a raw connection to the human experience he had long since buried. "You don't understand what you're asking," he said finally, his voice quieter now. "I do," she insisted, stepping closer. "I understand more than you think. Please, just give me a chance." The two stood in silence, the sounds of the gala fading into the background. In that moment, amidst the glitz and glamour surrounding them, Lily felt as though they were the only two people in the world. She could see a flicker of recognition in Andrew's eyes, a glimmer of something he had lost, just like her. "Fine," he said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just for one night." Relief washed over Lily, a wave of gratitude flooding her being. "Thank you," she breathed, a genuine smile breaking through the uncertainty that had shrouded her heart. As they began to leave, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something monumental, a path that would lead them both toward revelations they couldn't yet fathom. The night air greeted them as they stepped outside, a chill settling in. But for the first time in a long while, Lily felt a flicker of warmth within her. As Andrew led Lily through the grand entrance of his luxurious home, she was struck by the stark contrast between this world and the one she had known. The cold, hard streets of the city had given way to a warm, inviting space that smelled faintly of fresh linen and polished wood. The soft glow of chandeliers illuminated the entryway, casting intricate shadows on the marble floors. For a moment, Lily felt as if she had stepped into a dream she had long since thought beyond her reach. "Are you okay?" Andrew asked, glancing back at her as he closed the door behind them. His voice was gentle, yet there was a hint of concern in his eyes. Lily nodded, unable to find her voice. She stood frozen, absorbing the beauty around her. The walls were adorned with paintings, each telling a story of a time long past. Plush sofas invited her to sit, and the warmth of the house enveloped her like a comforting blanket. "Come on, let me show you to your room," Andrew said, breaking the silence. He motioned for her to follow him up a grand staircase. As they ascended, Lily's heart raced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had never been in a place like this, had never slept under a roof that didn't threaten to collapse at any moment. When they reached the top, Andrew opened a door to a spacious room filled with soft, muted colors and elegant furniture. A large bed dominated the space, covered in a fluffy quilt that looked inviting. "This is yours for the night," Andrew said, stepping aside to let her enter. "I hope it's okay." Lily stepped inside, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered, overwhelmed. "Make yourself at home," Andrew encouraged, giving her a small smile. "I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything." As he left the room, Lily walked over to the window, peering out at the city lights twinkling in the distance. She could hardly believe she was here, so far removed from the harsh reality of her life on the streets. She felt a wave of emotion wash over her, gratitude, relief, but also a profound sense of disbelief. After a moment, she sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers trailing over the soft fabric. The warmth of the quilt seeped through her clothes, and she felt a longing to sink into it, to forget the world outside. But just as she was about to lay down, something caught her eye, a glimmer of light coming from a slightly ajar door on the far side of the room. Curiosity piqued, Lily stood and walked toward the door. It creaked softly as she pushed it open, revealing a small, hidden room filled with old family photos and letters scattered haphazardly across a desk. The sight took her breath away, a glimpse into the life of a family she knew nothing about. She stepped inside, careful not to disturb anything. The walls were lined with framed photographs, capturing moments frozen in time. A young Andrew smiled in one, flanked by a woman who Lily assumed was his. Mother and a boy who looked remarkably like him. Her heart ached at the sight of the siblings, their smiles bright and carefree. As she examined the desk, she noticed a stack of letters tied together with a faded ribbon. One letter had slipped from the pile, its yellowed edges curling slightly. Without thinking, she reached down to pick it up. As she unfolded the paper, her eyes scanned the delicate handwriting and her breath caught in her throat. It was a letter addressed to Andrew, written by someone named Thomas. The tone was somewhat formal, but the content quickly revealed a deeply personal matter. The letter spoke of family secrets and an estranged brother, presumed dead after a tragic accident years ago. The words leapt off the page, igniting a fire of curiosity within her. "Lily," Andrew's voice echoed from the hallway, breaking her concentration. She hastily folded the letter and tucked it into her pocket, her heart racing. "Just exploring," she called back, trying to sound casual. She quickly stepped out of the room and closed the door behind her, catching Andrew's gaze as he approached. He looked slightly uneasy, as if sensing that something was amiss. "Everything okay?" he asked, his brow furrowing slightly. "Yeah, just looking at the pictures," she replied, forcing a smile. "You have a really nice family." Andrew's expression shifted, a flicker of something, regret, crossing his face. "Yeah, well, it's complicated," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Lily, emboldened by her discovery, decided to press further. "I found a letter in there," she said, her curiosity getting the better of her. It talked about a brother, someone who was supposed to be dead? Andrew's face hardened, the warmth of the moment dissipating as shadows crossed his features. "It's not something I want to discuss," he replied curtly, turning away from her. "Why not?" Lily pressed, feeling a mix of disappointment and frustration. "If it's your family, shouldn't you know?" Andrew sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated, Lily. Some things are better left in the past." "But what if it's important?" she insisted, her heart pounding. "What if knowing about your brother could change everything?" Andrew turned back to her, his eyes flashing with a mix of anger and pain. "You don't understand. You don't know what you're asking." Lily recoiled slightly at his tone, feeling the warmth of their earlier connection slip away. "I'm just trying to help," she said quickly, feeling like an outsider once more. Andrew's expression softened for a moment, but the vulnerability quickly masked itself with a wall of defensiveness. "I appreciate your help, but there are things I'm not ready to talk about." The silence that followed hung heavily between them, each lost in their thoughts. Lily felt a pang of disappointment as she realized how fragile their moment of connection had been. She had hoped to bridge the gap, to understand the man who had offered her a safe haven, but instead she felt the distance grow. "Let's just leave it for now," Andrew finally said, his voice low. "I'll get you something to eat. You must be hungry." As he turned to walk away, Lily watched him go, a mix of confusion and hurt swirling within her. She had opened a door to a part of his life that was seemingly forbidden, and now it felt as if she had intruded upon something sacred. In that moment, she realized that though she had stepped into a world of warmth and comfort, it came with its own shadows. Shadows that loomed large and heavy, refusing to let her fully in. With a heavy heart, Lily sank onto the edge of the bed again. She took a deep breath, the weight of the letter in her pocket, a constant reminder of the secrets that lay within these walls. She didn't know what it all meant for her or for Andrew, but one thing was clear. Their paths were intertwined in ways neither of them fully understood, and the truth that lingered in the air was far from simple. She looked out the window again, the city lights twinkling like stars. Somewhere out there, her old life felt like a distant memory, yet the shadows of Andrew's past had found a way to creep into her newfound sanctuary. And as she waited for him to return, she couldn't shake the feeling that the night was only just beginning, and the truths they both harbored were waiting to be uncovered. Lily sat on the edge of a worn-out park bench, the cool evening breeze ruffling her unkempt hair. The city around her buzzed with life, but in that moment she felt isolated, as if she were in a bubble of her own making. Clutching the newspaper article she had found earlier that day, she traced her fingers over the faded print, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The headline read, "Tragic Accident Claims Lives. Local Philanthropist's Brother Missing After Crash." Beneath it, a photograph of a handsome young man, Andrew's brother, stared back at her, his smile frozen in time, capturing a moment of happiness that felt so distant from her own life. Determined to uncover the truth, Lily stood up, her resolve solidifying like concrete. She had to confront Andrew to show him what she had discovered. After the awkward tension of their last encounter, she hoped her findings would bridge the gap that had formed between them. With each step towards Andrew's grand home, her mind raced with possibilities. Would he appreciate her efforts? Would he finally trust her enough to open up about the family secrets that had haunted him? Arriving at Andrew's door, Lily hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear soft music playing inside, a haunting melody that seemed to echo her uncertainty. Gathering her courage, she knocked. Moments passed, and just as she was about to turn away, the door swung open. Andrew stood there, his expression a mixture of surprise and concern. "Lily, what are you doing here?" His voice was warm, yet guarded. "I found something," she blurted out, holding the newspaper article tightly in her hands as if it were a lifeline. "You need to see this." His brow furrowed, curiosity peaking as he stepped aside to let her in. The contrast between the warmth of the interior and the chill of the evening air enveloped her like a comforting blanket. The plush furniture, the elegant decor, it all felt so foreign to her, yet strangely inviting. "Sit down," Andrew said, gesturing to a soft couch. He took a seat across from her, His eyes locked onto hers, filled with an intensity that made her heart race. "What did you find?" Lily unfolded the newspaper and laid it on the coffee table between them. "It's about your brother," she explained, pointing to the article. "He was in a car accident, but look, he's been missing for years. What if he's still out there?" Andrew's gaze shifted to the article, his expression darkening as he read. I thought I had lost him for good," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's been so long since I've even thought about that night." Lily watched as a storm of emotions flickered across his face. Regret, sorrow, and the faintest glimmer of hope. "You should tell me what happened," she urged gently. "You've been carrying this burden alone for too long." Andrew hesitated, his fingers running through his hair in evident frustration. "It's complicated, Lily," he finally said, his voice strained. "My brother, he had his demons. We weren't close at the end. I was angry with him. I didn't even get to say goodbye." "I get it," Lily replied softly, her own heart aching for him. "Sometimes we don't realize how much we care until it's too late." She leaned forward, her eyes imploring. "But maybe this is a chance to find him, to understand what really happened. You don't have to face this alone." Andrew looked at her, searching her face for sincerity. "Why do you care so much?" he asked, the edge of skepticism still present in his tone. "Because I know what it's like to feel lost," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been alone for so long. I want to help you find your brother, but I also want someone to help me. I thought maybe we could help each other." A silence enveloped them, heavy with unspoken words and shared pain. Andrew's expression softened as he gazed into her earnest eyes. "You're right," he finally said, his voice steadier now. "I don't want to keep this secret anymore. It's time to face my past." Lily felt a surge of warmth at his words. "So, what do we do next?" she asked, hope blossoming within her. Andrew took a deep breath, the weight of his decision settling in. "We need to gather more information about that night. I remember it vividly, the crash, the chaos. I just didn't know how to move forward after losing him," he mused, a hint of vulnerability seeping into his tone. "I found an address in the article," she interjected, pulling out a crumpled paper from her pocket. "The place where the accident happened. Maybe we can start there." Andrew's brow furrowed as he read the address. "It's a small town outside the city. I haven't been there in years." He paused, lost in thought. "But if there's a chance to find out what really happened, I have to go." Standing up, he looked at her with a newfound determination. "Are you ready to help me, Lily? This could be dangerous." Lily squared her shoulders, her resolve unshaken. "I've faced danger before. I can handle it. We're in this together, right?" Andrew nodded, a small smile beginning to form on his lips. "Together, then." They spent the next hour discussing their plan, Andrew sharing snippets of his brother's life, painting a picture of a young man who had once been full of dreams and aspirations. Despite the darkness that had ultimately engulfed him, Lily could sense the love Andrew still held for his brother, buried beneath layers of guilt and regret. As they prepared to leave, she felt a flicker of excitement mixed with anxiety. This was more than just a quest to uncover the past. It was a chance for both of them to heal, to confront their losses, and perhaps to forge a bond that transcended their troubled histories. "Let's go," Andrew said, his voice steady with purpose. They stepped out into the cool night air, the city lights twinkling like stars above them. As they walked side by side, Lily felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't experienced in a long time. The world around them faded into the background as they focused on the journey ahead, each step bringing them closer to the truth. "Do you think we'll find him?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Andrew glanced sideways at her, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know that facing the past is the first step. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together." Lily nodded, a sense of hope blooming in her chest. She had no idea what lay ahead, but for the first time in years, she felt like she was part of something bigger than herself, a mission that could change both their lives forever. As they continued down the dimly lit street, the weight of their shared burdens began to feel a little lighter, the promise of discovery and connection growing stronger with each passing moment. The sun hung low in the sky as Lily and Andrew entered the small town of Green Hollow. a place that seemed frozen in time. The streets were lined with quaint houses, their pastel colors fading under the weight of years. It was here, in this tucked-away corner of the world, that Andrew's brother had last been seen alive. Lily held tightly to the briefcase, now devoid of documents, but filled with whispers of secrets long buried. Andrew walked beside her, a palpable tension radiating from him. They made their way to a diner that had seen better days, its neon sign flickering weakly. The bell above the door chimed softly as they entered, announcing their arrival to a few patrons scattered around the room. The smell of coffee lingered in the air, mingling with the aroma of greasy fries. A waitress with tired eyes glanced up from behind the counter, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sit anywhere you like," she said, her voice flat. Andrew led Lily to a booth in the corner, where they could observe the room without being too conspicuous. "So what's the plan?" Lily asked, breaking the silence that had settled between them. She was eager, her curiosity bubbling over like a pot left too long on the stove. Andrew leaned back, his brow furrowed in thought. "We're looking for someone named Clara. She's supposed to have seen my brother after the accident," he explained, his voice low but steady. "If anyone knows anything about what happened, it's her." Lily picked up a menu, though she had no intention of ordering. "Do you think she'll talk to us?" Andrew shrugged, the weight of uncertainty heavy on his shoulders. "I hope so, but people can be reluctant to share what they know, especially if it involves someone who has been lost for so long." Just then, a woman entered the diner, her presence commanding attention. Clara was in her mid-50s, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a floral dress that seemed out of place in the dimly lit diner, and her sharp blue eyes scanned the room until they landed on Andrew. "Andrew Sinclair," she said, her voice dripping with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. "What brings you back to this old place?" Andrew rose to greet her, a flicker of recognition sparking in his gaze. "Clara, it's been a long time. I need to talk to you about my brother." Clara's expression shifted, a shadow crossing her features. "Your brother? I thought he was gone for good." "Not if you know something else," Lily interjected, her voice earnest. "We believe he might still be alive. Please, can you help us?" Clara's eyes softened as she took in the sight of Lily, the small girl with a desperate spark of hope. "I saw him," Clara finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was years ago, but I swear I saw him outside of town. He looked different, like he was hiding from someone." Andrew leaned in closer, his heart racing. "What do you mean? Did he say anything? Did he look okay?" Clara shook her head, her expression turning grave. "He was with a group of people. They were not good people, Andrew. I didn't want to get involved, but I saw the fear in his eyes." "Fear of what?" Lily pressed, leaning closer, drawn in by the urgency of the moment. "Of the life he left behind," Clara replied, her voice trembling slightly. "He had gotten mixed up with a criminal ring. I think he might have been trying to escape." Andrew's jaw clenched, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over him. "You mean he chose that life? After everything?" His voice was tight with disbelief. Clara studied his face, searching for understanding. "It's not that simple. Sometimes people feel they have no choice. Sometimes they're running from ghosts of their past." "Do you know where he is now?" Lily asked, her bright eyes locking onto Clara's. "Rumors have floated around about a hidden fortune," Clara said slowly. "They say your brother might have found something. Something valuable enough to keep him alive, but dangerous enough to put him at risk. I don't know where he is now, but if he's still involved with those people, then we have to find him," Andrew declared, his voice firm. "We have to bring him back, no matter what." Clara hesitated, her brow furrowing. "It won't be easy. If he's in with that crowd, they won't let him go without a fight. And if they think you're looking for him—" "I don't care about the danger," Andrew replied, his determination shining through. "He's my brother. I owe it to him to try." Lily sensed the unresolved tension crackling between them, an energy that spoke of years of pain and estrangement. She reached out, placing a hand on Andrew's arm. "We can do this together," she said softly. "You don't have to face this alone." Andrew's gaze softened as he looked at her, gratitude washing over him. "Thank you, Lily. You're right. Together." Clara watched the interaction, her heart aching for the siblings who had lost so much. "If you're serious about this," she said cautiously, "you'll need to be prepared. There are people who don't want the truth to come out, and they won't hesitate to silence anyone who gets too close." "We can handle it," Lily said, her voice unwavering. "We've come this far. We can't back down now." "All right," Clara conceded, her expression resolute. "If you want to find your brother, you'll need to start digging deeper. I can tell you a few names to look into, people who might know more about his situation." As Clara began to share the names, Andrew's mind raced. Questions flooded his thoughts. How had he not known about his brother's struggles? How had he let so much time pass without reaching out? The weight of guilt pressed down on his chest, but the flicker of hope that ignited in Lily's eyes reminded him that this was their chance to unravel the mystery that had haunted their family for too long. After exchanging contact information and promising to keep in touch, Clara left the diner, her presence lingering like a ghost of the past. Andrew and Lily sat in silence for a moment, the gravity of their next steps settling in. "Do you really think he's out there?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have to believe he is," Andrew replied, his gaze distant as he stared out the window. "I can't let my brother's story end without a fight." A sense of determination washed over them both. They were no longer just a girl and a man bound by circumstance. They were allies in a quest to uncover truths buried under layers of time and silence. As they rose from the booth, the afternoon sun streamed through the diner's windows, casting a warm glow around them. They stepped out into the world, ready to face whatever shadows lay ahead in their pursuit of Andrew's brother and the revelations that awaited them. "Let's find him," Lily said, her voice steady and full of resolve. Andrew nodded, his heart racing, not just with fear but with the thrill of possibility. Together they would unravel the threads of the past and discover the truth that could change everything. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the towering buildings of the city as Lily and Andrew sat in a dimly lit corner of the living room. The air was thick with tension, the remnants of their recent discoveries hanging heavily between them. Just moments ago, they had been piecing together clues about Andrew's brother, a man whose life remained shrouded in mystery. Now they faced an unsettling message that had disrupted their fragile progress. "I don't like this," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. She hugged her knees to her chest, her heart racing. The threatening note had been clear. Stop digging into the past or face the consequences. "What if they find us?" Andrew rubbed the back of his neck, his brow furrowed in thought. "I don't know who sent it, but it's not just an empty threat. We've stirred up something dangerous." He leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly together. A mix of frustration and fear etched across his face. "But we can't just back down now, not when we're so close to the truth." "There's something more here, Andrew," Lily insisted, her intuition prickling at the back of her mind. "I can feel it. What if your brother is still alive? Maybe he faked his death to escape something, or someone." Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and dread, the thought both thrilling and terrifying. Andrew stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "I've thought about that too. But if he is alive, why wouldn't he come back? Why wouldn't he try to reach out?" The deeper he delved into the mystery, the more questions seemed to arise, each one leading him further down a rabbit hole of uncertainty. Lily watched him, sensing his turmoil. Maybe he felt he couldn't. Maybe he was trying to protect you. Or himself. She took a deep breath, her mind racing as she recalled the document she had seen earlier hidden among Andrew's belongings. What if there's something in those files that could explain everything? Andrew stopped pacing and turned to her, curiosity mixed with skepticism in his gaze. "You really think so? What do you remember?" "There was a document. It was different from the rest. It had a date and a location, but I didn't get a chance to read it fully." She felt a surge of determination. "I can find it. I know I can." "All right," Andrew said, his voice steadier now. "Let's look together. If there's something there, we need to find it." They began searching through the stacks of papers scattered around the room, each document telling its own tale, but none revealing the truth they sought. As they flipped through the files, Andrew's heart raced when he stumbled upon an envelope with his brother's name written in elegant script. He hesitated for a moment before tearing it open, desperate to find answers. Inside, he found a letter dated only a year before his brother's supposed death. The handwriting was shaky, revealing a sense of urgency. "Lily, look at this," Andrew said, his voice trembling as he handed her the letter. "It talks about a hidden fortune and a plan to escape, but it doesn't say where or how." Lily scanned the letter, her brow knitting together. He mentions a deal gone wrong and a name. She paused, her heart sinking. This name, it connects to that criminal ring we heard about. "What do you mean?" Andrew's eyes widened, a flicker of fear igniting in him. "Remember the woman at the diner? She said your brother was involved with people who weren't exactly law-abiding." She bit her lip, her mind racing with possibilities. What if he got caught up in something dangerous, and that's why he had to disappear? Andrew ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. If that's true, then I've been living a lie. All these years I thought I was mourning a death when he might have been trying to save himself. "Maybe he didn't want to put you in danger," Lily suggested gently. "If people were after him, he might have thought it was safer for you to believe he was dead." The room fell silent as the implications of their discoveries settled in. Andrew's mind raced, grappling with the idea that he could have lost his brother not to fate, but to a dark world filled with danger and deceit. "I have to know for sure," he said finally, determination igniting within him. "If there's even a chance he's alive, I need to find him." "Then we go back to that town," Lily affirmed, her resolve matching his. "We need to talk to that woman again. She might know more." Just as they were about to gather their things, Andrew's phone buzzed on the table, startling them both. He picked it up, his face paling as he read the message. "It's from the same number as the note," he said, his voice shaky. "They're watching us." "What does it say?" Lily asked, her heart racing. "You're getting too close. Back off, or you'll regret it." "Mice," Lily's stomach dropped. "We can't let them intimidate us. We need to keep going." "I know, but we need to be careful," Andrew replied, his protective instincts kicking in. "We can't let fear control us, but we can't be reckless either. We'll go back to the town, but we need a plan." As they prepared to leave, a sense of urgency filled the air. The stakes had been raised, and the thrill of the chase was now tinged with danger. Lily felt a mix of excitement and fear as they stepped outside into the cool night, the city lights twinkling like stars above them. "Whatever happens, Lily, I won't let anything happen to you," Andrew vowed, his voice firm as they walked side by side. "We're in this together." "I know," she replied with a small smile, emboldened by his words. "We'll uncover the truth no matter what it takes." As they navigated through the bustling streets, the weight of the world seemed to press on their shoulders. Each step resonated with the echoes of their past, a past filled with loss and longing. But together they were forging a new path, one that might lead them to answers, or into the heart of danger. Unbeknownst to them, shadows lurked in the corners of the city, eyes watching their every move. The mysteries of the Sinclair family were far from over, and the truth awaited them, hidden just beneath the surface, ready to be uncovered. As they journeyed forward, both Lily and Andrew knew one thing for certain: the quest for answers would change everything,